So if you break your arm, right, the X-ray shows this clean, jagged white line. It's totally binary.
Right. It's either broken or it's not.
Exactly. You just point to the film and say, well, there's the problem. But what happens when you take an X-ray of, like, a traumatized nervous system?
Yeah, you're looking at a diagnostic landscape that is entirely murky.
Right. And today, we're opening up a really profoundly influential stack of notes and research centered around Dr. Bessel van der Kolk's work, specifically The Body Keeps the Score.
Which is such a massive shift in how we understand this stuff.
It really is. We are moving completely away from this outdated idea that severe stress is just, a bad memory or a lack of willpower.
Oh, absolutely.
Instead, our mission for this deep dive is to look at how extreme stress literally, physically rewires your biology. And more importantly, how you can basically hack that biology to rewire it back.
Because the medical community struggled for a really long time with what to do about the physical aftermath of terrible experiences.
Because it isn't a broken bone.
Right. No, it isn't. It is a fundamental reorganization of the way the brain and body manage survival.
And if you're listening to this, whether you are dealing with the aftermath of some major life event, or maybe you're trying to understand a loved one, or even if you just want to know why you get inexplicably tense and your heart races during certain mundane meetings at work.
Which happens to a lot of us.
Totally. This deep dive is going to completely reframe how you view your own physical and emotional reactions. So, okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it. To understand how to reset the system, we really first have to look at what breaks.
Right. The malfunction.
Exactly. The core concept introduced early in this research, specifically in Chapter 2, is the physical recalibration of the brain's alarm system.
Okay, because we all know the basic fight or flight mechanism, right? Like you perceive a threat, your body dumps adrenaline and cortisol into your bloodstream, your heart rate spikes, and you basically either run or fight.
Right. That's just baseline human biology. It's meant to save your life.
But what this research shows is that in trauma, the off switch literally breaks.
Yeah. The smoke detector basically never gets the all-clear signal.
Wow.
There's a highly influential study mentioned in the notes by Mayer and Seligman. They looked at dogs that were exposed to inescapable shock.
Which is tough to hear about, but...
It is, yeah. But the critical finding wasn't just that the dogs were frightened in the moment. It was that their baseline physiology fundamentally altered.
Meaning what, exactly?
Meaning that long after the actual danger had passed, long after, these animals continued to secrete massive chronic amounts of stress hormones.
Oh, wow.
Their bodies were just acting as if the threat was continually present every single day.
So it's essentially like having a car alarm that gets recalibrated to go off every time. Like a single leaf touches the windshield.
That is a great way to put it.
And you've lost the keys to turn it off. You're just trapped in the noise.
Exactly. And the biological reality of that car alarm is a constant flood of cortisol that physically degrades tissue. That keeps the brain constantly scanning for threats.
The world is just a dangerous place now.
Right. You're experiencing the world through a highly sensitized, fundamentally different nervous system.
See, I'm struggling with this a bit, though.
Okay, how so?
Well, if someone's physiology is that fundamentally altered, like their body is literally pumping out these hormones, constantly telling them they can just rewire, it sounds a little bit like, toxic positivity.
Right, like just think happy thoughts.
Yeah. How does a purely physical ingrained hormonal response get fixed without just heavily medicating the person to numb the alarm?
Well, you're hitting on the exact hurdle the entire psychiatric field faced for decades.
Really?
Yeah. For a long time, the default was the brain disease model. That basically relies on throwing heavy medications at the problem to chemically force the alarm into submission.
Just dampening the whole system?
Right. And look, while medications can dampen a hyperactive system to keep someone functional, they don't cure the underlying reorganization of the brain.
Because they're just a Band-Aid.
Exactly. They don't teach the nervous system how to actually regulate itself again. The answer to your question, the real hope here, lies in neuroplasticity.
The brain's ability to change.
Yes. The brain's pathways are malleable. If they can be wired for constant danger, they can absolutely physically be rewired for safety.
Okay, so if medication isn't the whole answer, what actually reestablishes that baseline? How do we rewire it?
So the text points to four fundamental, really deeply interconnected truths about human healing.
Okay, let's go through them.
First and foremost, safety is profoundly social. I mean, our capacity to heal each other is a biological imperative.
Because we're mammals, right?
Exactly.
Sure.
Restoring relationships and community is central because mammals literally regulate each other's physiology. We need each other to feel safe.
Okay, that's one. What's the second?
Second, we must be able to define what we know. Language gives us the power to find common meaning and share our reality.
Got it.
Third, we have to regulate our own physiology through bottom-up activities. And by that, I mean basic physical things, moving, breathing, touching.
Okay, and the fourth?
Finally, we have to cultivate social conditions and environments where people actually feel physically safe enough to drop those defenses.
You know, there is a glaring contradiction in there that I think we need to unpack.
Oh, really?
Which part? Well, you mentioned in truth number 2 that language and finding common meaning is powerful. Like, we need to talk about our experiences.
Right.
But then truth number 3 says we need to rely on bottom-up activities like movement and breathing.
Yeah.
So here's where it gets confusing for me. If I can just go to therapy and talk out my problems, why do I need to focus on my posture or, like, my breathing?
Ah, okay. What's fascinating here is that talk therapy is essentially trying to update the software on a computer that has been unplugged from the wall. Yeah. While language is crucial for meaning eventually, in the immediate aftermath of a trigger, talking alone often just fails biologically.
Wait, biologically fails?
Yes. When a person is triggered by severe stress, specific vital areas of the brain physically shut down.
So they literally can't process it.
Exactly. The body has to physically feel safe first before the rational mind can process a single word you are saying.
That is wild.
Yeah.
And to really prove why just talking hits a wall, the neuroimaging studies in these notes are, frankly, staggering.
They really are.
They put survivors into fMRI brain scanners and expose them to reminders of their traumatic events just to see the hardware functioning in real time.
Right, to see what actually happens in the brain during a flashback.
Yeah, and there is the case of Marcia. This was 13 years after a horrific tragedy.
13 years.
Yeah. And when Marcia was put in the scanner and reminded of the event, her amygdala, the brain's emotional smoke detector, it just lit up aggressively.
So even after over a decade, her brain reacted as if the trauma was happening right then and there.
Exactly. But the really critical piece of data from that scan was what happened to Broca's area.
Right, which is the speech center of the brain.
Yep. Broca's area is responsible for putting our thoughts and feelings into words.
And what did the scan show?
During her flashback, that region of her brain went completely black, like physically went offline.
Wow.
She lost the biological capacity to speak about what she was feeling.
So it's not that she was being stubborn or, just didn't want to talk.
No, not at all. Her brain essentially shut off the microphone.
She was totally cut off from language. And, we see similar intense neurological shifts in other survivors in the text, too.
Like who?
Like Stan and Ute. They were a couple who survived this terrible highway crash.
Oh, right.
And they were in the exact same car, sitting right next to each other, but their brains reacted to the memory completely differently.
Because when Scan was in the scanner,
Yeah.
his left brain went dark, right?
Yes. And the left hemisphere is responsible for logic, sequencing, and basically keeping time.
So what happens when that goes away?
Well, when that went offline, Stan was left trapped in a timeless loop of right brain sensory fragments.
Just fragments.
Yeah, he wasn't remembering a story from the past. He was experiencing the visual and auditory pieces of the crash as if they were a present reality.
Wow, so no context at all.
None. He couldn't string them into a narrative with a beginning, middle, and end.
And Ute's brain did the exact opposite of that.
It did. You completely blanked out. Almost every area of her brain showed decreased activation.
She just shut down entirely.
Completely. She went into a state of depersonalization. She felt absolutely nothing. No racing heart, no fear, just total numbness and detachment.
That is terrifying in its own way.
Right. Her brain protected itself by pulling the plug entirely. It's a really profound physiological defense.
It really is.
And, to borrow a brilliant observation from centuries ago, Shakespeare actually nailed this dynamic in Macbeth.
Wait, really? Shakespeare?
Yeah. After the king's murdered body is discovered, Macduff screams, "Tongue nor heart cannot conceive nor name thee."
Oh, wow. That's exactly it.
Right. Shakespeare intuitively understood that overwhelming horror is inherently pre-verbal. It drives us to the edge of comprehension, entirely cutting us off from language. All trauma is preverbal.
So basically, what does this all mean? It sounds like during a stressful trigger, your brain's rational storyteller just walks off the stage.
That is the perfect metaphor. Exactly.
The storyteller walks off and leaves only the special effects team blowing things up.
Yes. The sensory fragments, the sights, the sounds, the panic, they're all firing, but there's no narrator to make sense of them.
And if the storyteller's gone, talk therapy just hits a wall.
Right. You cannot logic someone out of a physiological response. Like we said earlier, you cannot reason with a smoke detector.
Okay, so if the speech center is physically dark and we can't talk our way out of it, how do we reach a brain that has basically barricaded itself?
Well, this brings us back to those two distinct paths to self-regulation we mentioned. Top down and bottom up.
Since the rational brain drops the signal, we need practical ways to get the smoke detector and the watchtower back in balance.
Exactly. Let's look at the mechanics of top-down regulation first. This involves strengthening the brain's watchtower, which is the medial prefrontal cortex.
The watchtower, okay.
Yeah, that is the part of your brain that observes what's happening from an elevated kind of objective perspective.
And the notes say you strengthen it through mindfulness. But, how does just noticing something actually change the physical panic?
Because it's not just passive noticing, right? It is active neural engagement.
Oh, okay.
When you are in a panic, the amygdala is running the show. But by pausing and deliberately naming your physical sensations, like saying to yourself, I feel a crushing sensation in my chest, or my hands are trembling.
Calling it out.
Yeah, naming it. You are forcing blood flow and electrical activity back into that medial prefrontal cortex. You are biologically separating the person from the panic.
Oh, so you become the observer of the alarm rather than the alarm itself?
Exactly. And that top-down observation physically signals the amygdala to shrink its response.
Okay, that makes total sense for the cognitive side. But then we have the bottom-up regulation.
Right.
Because the alarm originates deep in the emotional animal part of the brain, we have to recalibrate the autonomic nervous system through the body itself.
Yes, through movement and touch.
The text mentions things like tapping acupressure points, deep breathing, therapeutic yoga, and even completing thwarted actions, like that self-defense program, model mugging.
Yeah, the bottom-up approach is all about utilizing the body's own physical pathways to send safety signals back up to the brain.
Okay, I have to interject here.
Sure.
Because I can imagine you, the listener, thinking, I am stressed out of my mind, my heart is racing, I'm having a trauma response, and you just want me to do some yoga, or like tap my collarbone.
It does sound a bit simplistic, I know.
It sounds dismissive, almost like a wellness fad. What is that tapping or breathing actually doing biologically?
No, it is entirely fair to be skeptical of that. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, the biological lever you are pulling here is profound.
Okay, lay it on me.
Let's take deep rhythmic breathing or targeted tapping. What you are actually doing is stimulating the vagus nerve.
The vagus nerve.
Yeah. It is a literal information highway that runs from your gut through your chest and throat right up into your brain.
So it's basically a physical cable connecting the body to the alarm system.
A massive one. And when you engage in deep, slow breathing, your diaphragm physically pushes and tugs on that vagus nerve.
Oh, wow.
And that mechanical action stimulates the nerve to secrete a neurotransmitter called acetylcholine.
Acetylcholine.
Yes. And acetylcholine physically acts on your heart to lower your heart rate. It forces your parasympathetic nervous system, the body's brakes, to engage.
So it's not a metaphor.
Not at all. You aren't just relaxing. You are manually overriding the biological panic state by flooding the system with a chemical that forces the heart to slow down.
That is just fascinating. You are essentially using your lungs to inject a calming chemical into your own heart.
Exactly. These aren't just relaxing hobbies. They're targeted biological interventions.
And what about things like that self-defense class, the model mugging?
So that serves a different biological purpose. It's about completing a thwarted action.
Thwarted action.
Yeah, when someone is traumatized, their defense mechanism was initiated, right? But they couldn't fight or run. The energy was just trapped.
Like Newton in the car crash.
Right. But by allowing the body to physically strike back in a simulated, safe environment like a self-defense class, the nervous system finally gets the physical signal that the danger is over.
The action is completed.
The biological cycle of survival is completed, and that trapped energy is discharged.
So the body literally needs to physically know it survived It's not just about letting off steam.
Exactly the point. You are creating what the text calls islands of safety within the body itself.
Islands of safety. I like that.
And once an individual can tolerate their own internal physical sensations without panicking, they are ready for the final and perhaps most crucial step in the actionable healing process.
Which is
Mammalian synchrony.
reconnecting with the outside world. This ties right back to what you said earlier about safety being profoundly social.
It does. To understand this, we have to look at polyvagal theory, which basically maps out our biological hierarchy of survival.
Okay, how does that work?
Well, as mammals, our primary and most advanced survival strategy is social engagement.
Right, calling out for help.
Yeah. When we feel safe, our facial muscles relax, our vocal tone becomes melodic, and we connect with others. We literally use our faces and voices to regulate the nervous systems of the people around us.
But when that primary system fails, like when we feel threatened and no one comes to our aid, we drop down a level.
Exactly. We drop down to the secondary mammalian strategy. The sympathetic nervous system kicks in, and we try to fight or flee.
And if that fails?
If we are physically trapped or held down, we drop down to the most primitive reptilian emergency system of all.
The freeze response.
Right. We freeze, collapse, and shut down to preserve energy and minimize pain.
Which perfectly explains Yute's brain scan during the car crash memory.
Yeah.
She was physically trapped in the wreckage, couldn't fight or flee, so her body pulled the plug. Depersonalization.
Yes. So the healing journey requires us to climb back up that biological ladder. From freeze, through the mobilization of fight or flight, all the way back up to social engagement.
And there is a beautiful, really memorable story in the notes that illustrates the mechanics of this, right? The nonverbal climb.
Yes, it's such a great example. It involves a man named Steve Gross who worked in a clinic waiting room with deeply traumatized, frozen children.
These were kids who had basically retreated entirely inward.
Yeah, and Steve didn't walk up to these shut-down kids and demand that they talk about their feelings.
Because their rational storyteller was offline.
Exactly. Engaging their speech centers would be completely useless. Instead, he engaged them physically and rhythmically.
How so?
He would accidentally drop a brightly colored beach ball near a kid, lean over, and just give it a gentle nudge toward them.
Just rolling a ball across the floor.
Just a tiny physical interaction. But almost instinctively, the kid would give a half-hearted pushback. Wow.
And gradually, Steve would establish a back-and-forth physical rhythm. No words, just movement.
Just rhythm.
Right. And before long, you would see the child's posture change, their breathing shift, and a smile would just break out on their face.
It's like we are all tuning forks.
Oh, I love that.
Right. If you place a vibrating tuning fork next to a completely silent one, the silent one starts to hum at the exact same frequency.
That is exactly what happens.
We literally regulate each other's nervous systems through a smile, a gentle game of catch, or like tango dancing.
That tuning fork analogy captures the mechanism perfectly. We are biologically designed to regulate each other.
Wow.
Trauma robs people of their imagination, their sense of time, and their ability to play. It locks them in hypervigilance or just total collapse.
So play is actually biological medicine.
It is. Restoring rhythm and synchrony, whether that is through singing in a chorus, playing a sport, theater, or just rolling a beach ball, it's the ultimate way to signal to the primitive brain that it is finally safe to live in the present moment. It brings the social engagement system back online.
Exactly.
You don't have to be on guard anymore. You can just be.
The biological watchtower comes back online, the speech centers light up again, and the smoke detector can finally rest.
Man, what a journey today. To summarize the profound ground we've covered, we've learned that severe stress and trauma are not invisible flaws in your character.
No, they're not.
They are physically scored into your biology. Your brain's alarm system loses its off switch, and your rational storyteller literally abandons the stage.
But the hope is real.
Right. Because of neuroplasticity, you have the power to reset that system. By leveraging community, understanding the limits of language, and utilizing top-down mindfulness and bottom-up physical regulation like breath and movement, you can manually override your biological panic.
You can create those islands of safety.
Yes, and use mammalian synchrony to tune your nervous system back to a state of deep connection.
The overriding takeaway here is profound hope. The body undeniably keeps the score, but we possess the innate biological tools to change the game entirely.
Which leaves you with one final thought to mull over as we wrap up today's deep dive.
Let's hear it.
We've spent this whole time looking at how the body keeps the score of our darkest moments,
Yeah.
right? Locking away terror and helplessness in our muscles, our vagus nerve, and our hormones. But if our biology is this profoundly malleable, could it also keep the score of our ultimate triumphs?
Oh, wow.
Right? If we rigorously practice safety, joy, and deep connection, could we actively imprint resilience so deeply into our bodies that it becomes our new default reflex?
What a thought.
What would a joy-recalibrated nervous system look like for you?
I love that.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning, keep exploring, and we will catch you next time.